Hello everyone, this is part 32 of What If Naruto Was the Devil Ninja, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. So, Loki failed. It seems that way, my lord. Well, that sucks. I knew he was going to fail, but I had at least hoped he would provide a little more entertainment before biting the dust, especially after all the help I gave him. He sat on a throne cast in shadow, in a room so large it looked like the entrance hall to a castle. Columns lined the interior, set on either side of a red carpet leading to his throne, which in turn sat on a raised dais, as if elevating him above everyone else. It had the appearance of those castles one would expect to find in a video game. In which case, that would probably make him the last boss. The thought amused him, though it left quickly as anger consumed his mind. That just goes to show you how incapable Loki was. Despite KO'd for him, he still couldn't amount to much in the end. Rizvim Lucifer knelt before him. The devil, his goatee neatly trimmed, was dressed in his usual resplendent armor. His shoulder pauldrons with the numerous segments and glimmering sea plate made him seem more like a gallant knight than a resident of the underworld. Then again, devils were known for their ability to deceive. In either event, I have claimed a good deal of strength thanks to Naruto. He clenched his hands into fists as though testing his newfound strength. Of course he couldn't feel anything like this. However, deep beneath the surface of his skin, he could feel the power boiling within him like a cauldron. Chakra flowed through his coils that were once filled with little more than a trickle, just enough to keep him alive. It was like an overflowing fountain existed inside of him now. This power was rightfully his. This power which that fool Naruto had squandered. He would make much better use of it. Turning away from studying his own hand, he looked at Rizvim again. How goes your plan to revive all of the evil dragons? Rizvim cleared his tea. Thanks to your power, we were able to revive Grendel and Nihonga. We're currently working on reviving Krumkruik now. After that, we'll revive Apophis, Yamato no Orochi, and Ladin in that order. It had been he who had allowed Rizvim to hasten his plans to revive the evil dragons. Thanks to the power he had been receiving, and thanks to this world itself, he had been able to revive them with ease. The idea to revive the evil dragons had been Rizvim's. He personally didn't care for their revival, but if it would get him one step closer toward what he wanted, then he would offer his aid. It wasn't like it would be at all difficult. Thanks to his newly awakened or perhaps newly taken power, thanks to the hatred engulfing this world, he had nearly limitless power at his command. And what of the hero faction? Have you found out what they are doing after they defected? We have. Rizvim looked up. It seems they are still trying to accomplish their original goal even though Office is no longer with them. So they are still searching for a way to free Samael. Should we take care of them? No. He shook his head. Leave them be. It doesn't matter to me what they do, and since Office is living with Naruto, their actions are bound to make things more difficult for him. I doubt he'll use Sage Mode again after what happened, but anything that can keep him from seeking me out right now is a good thing. While he was certain that he now held most of the power, the fact remained that Naruto was an extremely volatile variable not even he, the person who knew him best, could account for. The boy had proven time and time again that he could not be underestimated. What's more, he had felt Kurama's power coming from the boy, stronger than before. He was not certain he could defeat Naruto with Kurama helping him. I understand. Rizvim stood up. Then I shall continue with the preparations to revive the evil dragons and use Sephiroth Graal to begin mass-producing them. It will take some time, but I imagine we'll be able to begin before the year is out. That's fine. Keep up the good work. He honestly didn't care about Rizvim's plans. Let the man do whatever he wanted. His only desire was to steal the rest of Naruto's power and K the boy. That was the only goal he was working toward. There could only be one, after all. Devil Ninja. Although it was early in the morning, Naruto and Rias were wide awake as they sat in her office. The warm wood of the walls combined with the numerous bookshelves lined with books gave the place a studious feel, like something he would have expected in the house of an old philosopher with a goatee who liked smoking on a pipe. There weren't many decorations, but Rias preferred simple arrangements and wasn't really one for posh and lavish interiors. They weren't doing any paperwork right now. That was because they had already finished. There also wasn't much to do. Ever since they had all returned from Greece after that battle against the Greek pantheon and the three factions' leaders, the amount of work Rias had been required to complete dropped. Of course, it wasn't like she didn't have any work that she needed to attend to. All her standard workload remained, but that was the stuff she'd been doing since before Naruto even became a reincarnated devil. She got it done in record time. I received a missive from my brother, Rias said as she sat on the couch across from him, left leg crossed over her right, arms crossed. She was only wearing some negligee. The purple and slightly see-through outfit made it hard to stare at something besides her pink S, especially with the way her crossed arms were pushing them up. I'm guessing the situation with the Greek pantheon has finally been resolved. Asked Naruto as the door to their left opened to admit Akino and Revel. About 1 week ago, the three faction alliance leaders had been controlled by Loki, Norse god of trickery, and attacked the Greek pantheon. This had been done to incite a war that would engulf the world. This plan was thwarted by none other than the numerous youngsters who had taken part in the rating games that had been hosted in the underworld over the summer break. What's more, Loki himself had been killed by Office, so he would no longer be a problem. Having Office on our side probably helps, Revel added. The Greeks know we're not as strong as we used to be. I'm sure they would have demanded a lot more from us if it weren't for Office. Everyone knows she's living with Naruto-sama by now, and they fear that he'll unleash Office on them if they do anything drastic. I always have room for more food, Naruto said as he polished off his third Danish. What's going to happen now? Rias shrugged as she set her tea down and ga Danish. Naruto had decided to return the favor and was feeding Revel. He pulled the girl's legs across his lap and was stroking them as he fed her a Danish. Poor Ravel's face was a blushing wreck, with steaming pouring from her head and everything, but she also wore a radiant smile as she timidly nibbled on the food Naruto offered her. Now, Rias raised an eyebrow. Now, you have to get ready for the school trip. School trip. Naruto blinked. Rias and Revel stared at Naruto like he had said something extraordinarily dumb, like he'd suddenly sprouted buck teeth that had grown past his chin. He stared back, sweat forming on his head. Rias sighed. The trip to Kyoto. You know, the one where you, Asia, Issei, Kiba, and Irina will be spending 4 days and 3 nights in away from us. It's coming up next week. Don't tell me you forgot about it. Naruto hadn't forgotten about it, but that's because he hadn't heard anything about it to begin with. No, wait, that wasn't quite true. He did remember hearing Irina say something about the school trip when he took her out to a cafe, but he had not realized it was a trip to Kyoto. He sighed. At least now he understood why Irina had been so excited. Naruto heard tell that Kyoto was quite possibly the greatest fount of ancient Japanese architecture and tradition in all of Japan. Revel sighed and placed a hand on her forehead. Let me guess, you ditched class the day they announced the school trip. Maybe, Naruto admitted to the accompanying sighs of Rias and Revel. After discussing the matter of the Kyoto school trip, along with telling Naruto that he should do some shopping for supplies, the three made their way into the dining kitchen combo. Everyone else was already there. Asia was sitting beside Issei, while Kiba sat on Issei's other side. Gasper was sitting as far from Koneko as possible. Oddly enough, there were 2 spots on either side of her, which Naruto correctly assumed belonged to Office and Revel. The head of the table was reserved for Rias. Rosweiss was on the other end of the table, and she blushed the moment they entered the room. Naruto took a spot between Kiba and Irina as Revel sat on Koneko's left. After Revel took the French toast out of the oven and served it up, everyone began talking all at once. The many different conversations remained polite and didn't get too loud. Issei and Asia began talking about the school trip. Even Kiba and Irina joined in, leading Naruto to realize that he really was the only one who didn't know about the trip. That was really embarrassing actually. Maybe he should come into class every now and again. Heck, he should at least consider leaving a shadow clone. Akino and Rias were talking about something school-related, while Koneko was telling Revel about a confectionery she wanted to take her to this weekend. Naruto joined their conversation since it sounded interesting. He was always down for trying new food, though he preferred ramen to sweets. It wasn't until several more minutes had passed that he realized something. "Where is Office?" he asked suddenly. Everyone stopped eating and looked at the empty seat. From the confused look in their eyes, it seemed they were also curious about their resident dragon god. They all glanced at each other, seemingly not sure how to answer him, or whether they even could answer him. Only Asia, Koneko, and Revel didn't look confused. "I'm sure she'll be down in just a minute," Koneko said before stuffing a large bite of French toast into her mouth. She huffed Jeff and Rifi. "Don't talk with your mouth full," Revel sighed. As Koneko swallowed her food, Naruto sent them both a confused glance. "Getting ready for what? She's even done her hair." Her hair was normally let down, flowing freely behind her back as bangs hovered in front of her face, but not today. This time her hair, tied into an artful series of braids, swished as she stopped in front of Naruto. He had to admit that her hair looked quite nice. Having it tied up like this meant her slender shoulders were on display. She was quite cute. Naruto. Yes. Naruto stopped eating to focus fully on Office. Something was different about her. There was a strange determination blazing in her normally dull eyes. "You are taking me on a date today." "Ha! Issei, Irina," and Rosweiss shouted in surprise, though none of the other girls aside from Irina seemed shocked by this. In fact, Rias kept eating as if nothing was happening, while Revel and Koneko were nodding several times. On a side note, Koneko was still stuffing her face with Ravel's French toast. Even Akino didn't seem very surprised by what Office just said. "I suppose I should have expected this." "Sure," Naruto said. "I'll take you out on a date." Office smiled at him and went over to her seat by Koneko, where she began piling French toast onto her plate. Naruto tried to ignore the looks he was given, the weirdly freaked out expression on Issei's face, the amused one from Kiba, the furtive glances from Irina, and the intense stare from a redder-than-a-fire truck Rosweiss. As breakfast continued, Rias sighed. He was supposed to go shopping for his trip to Kyoto today. Devil Ninja. Naruto had changed into something more appropriate for a date. He thought his black pants matched his orange collared shirt well. He'd even gone a step further and added an undershirt, leaving the last two buttons on top of his shirt unbuttoned. His blonde hair was as messy as always, but that was natural since it never stayed combed no matter what he did. He was walking hand in hand with Office as they made their way to the bus stop, where they planned to hop on a bus that would take them to Kuo City's main district. They could have walked, but going by bus sounded more date-like. Actually, wouldn't it have been more like a date if they met up at an assigned meeting spot? That was how most anime dates began. Well, that would have been too much of a hassle. "Do you have any idea what you would like to do on our date?" asked Naruto. Office shook her head. "I do not know what dates entail outside of the fact that it's where a man and a woman who are mutually attracted to each other go out together." She paused, tilting her head from side to side as her eyes glazed over. "I have read that most dates consist of shopping, a movie, and dinner. If the date goes well, then the couple will find a love hotel and begin getting busy." I'm not sure where you got your dating information, but that last part is incorrect. "It is, usually. Devil Ninja. That was too close. I can't believe you almost let yourself get caught." "Hey, it wasn't my fault. Koneko pushed me. Did not. Now, you two. Please don't fight." Several people had decided to follow Naruto and Office as they went out on the date. Of course, these people were Rias, Revel, Koneko, Irina, and Rosweiss. The group of 5 were wearing mostly normal clothes. Only Revel had elected to wear something that wasn't normal, though the large tan trench coat did do a decent job of hiding her features. Rias, Koneko, and Irina only wore hats and sunglasses to keep people from seeing who they were. Their caps were large enough to cover most of their heads, so the chances of someone recognizing them on sight were slim. Naruto probably would, but they didn't plan on letting him see them at all. "Come on, girls." Rosweiss tried to stop Revel and Koneko from arguing, though Irina and Rias knew it was futile. "If we don't hurry and grab the next bus, we might lose them." Her words must have had magical properties because everyone turned to see Naruto and Office hopping onto a bus. Irina began walking toward the bus without thinking, no doubt to hop on, but Koneko G the back of her shirt to keep her from moving off. Hold it. We can't get on their bus. They'll discover us for sure. Oh. Irina rubbed her head with a sheepish smile. Right. I didn't think about that. Obviously not. Koneko rolled her eyes. Their bus is taking off, Ravel said. Let's hurry to the stop and get on the next one. Kuo City wasn't a really big place. In fact, its population didn't exceed 25,000, making it one of the smallest cities in Japan. Because it wasn't very big, both in terms of population and in size, the buses all went to the same places like clockwork. What's more, buses appeared at 15-minute intervals, so hopping on the next one wouldn't take much time. Once the next bus arrived, they all sat at the front, the better to hop right off as soon as they reached the destination. Koneko, Ravel, and Irina were all sitting together, while Rias sat next to Rosweiss. I'm curious to know why you decided to come with us, Rias said to Rosweiss as the bus began its 15-minute trip into the city. The other girls are easy to understand, but I didn't think you had feelings for Naruto like they do. Oh, me. Rosweiss turned away to look out the window, but Rias could see her expression in the reflection. Her face could have outshone a mage's fire spell. And no particular reason. I'm really just curious to see what a date would be like. After all, her expression darkened suddenly, becoming so depressed it looked like there was a rain cloud hovering around her head. It's not like I have any experience with dating. There were any number of things Rias could have said to that, but she chose not to. She placed an arm around the woman's shoulder and comforted her. That said, a plan did begin forming in her mind, but she would need to talk to Naruto about her idea to see what he thought about it. The bus ride felt longer than it should have been. Rias chalked that up to dealing with a depressed Rosweiss. When they got off, the group began searching for Naruto and Office, who were fortunately not hard to spot even in the busy crowd. After all, there was only one person in the entire world who had spiky blonde hair like that and wore orange clothing. There he is. Irina was the first to spot them, and she pointed. They just entered the theater. Let's follow them, Ravel said. I'm right behind you, Yakitori. As the two girls rushed off, Irina close behind, Rias sighed as she guided the still depressed Rosweiss into the theater. Devil Ninja. There were a lot of movies playing in the theater and neither he nor Office knew any of them. That was to be expected. Naruto didn't much care for movies and Office's only experience with movies was an offhand comment she'd heard about them almost 2 decades ago. The two of them stared at the movie posters with blank eyes. One of the posters looked like a romance movie, which Office expressed mild interest in but didn't seem enthusiastic about. It was a very stereotypical poster. The girl was being held in the guy's arms as they stood on a boat. It looked boring. What about that? Office pointed to a poster with a giant robot as the centerpiece. It didn't look anything like a Gundam, though, so Naruto thought it was just a normal mecha movie. The lure of the movie was called Pacific Rim. You want to watch a movie about mecha? Asked Naruto. Office shrugged. I do not know. I have never seen a movie before, but, she tilted her head, I have watched anime with you and the others. This one reminds me of that Gungan series we watched. You mean Gundam? Naruto sighed. You're lucky Rias wasn't here to hear you say that. She'd have been pissed at you for getting it wrong. Would she? Yes, she would. Naruto blinked. How did you know I was talking to Kurama? I can just tell. I see, sorry. Doing the only thing he could think of to placate her, Naruto began petting her head. He forced a smile. Her hair was lovely, but he couldn't run his fingers through it since it was braided. I promise, from now until the end of our date, I'll only pay attention to you. While her smile was small, it was still there. Good. Devil Ninja. NNNNNNNNNNNNN. Rias was grinding her teeth as she, Koneko, Irina, Ravel, and Rosweiss sat several seats above and behind Naruto and Office, looking down at the pair. The other girls leaned away from her as if she might bite their heads off. However, the redhead was not paying any attention to them. Her eyes were intently focused on drilling holes through Office's head. I'm not sure I understand why she is so angry, Rosweiss said. I thought she was perfectly okay with letting Naruto go on dates with other girls. She is, Ravel informed her with a nod. That isn't the issue here. Then what is? Asked Irina. Office called one of her favorite shows, Gungan. The answer came from Koneko, who was munching on a bowl of popcorn covered in chocolate. If there's one surefire way to piss our president off, then it's getting the names of anime mixed up. While Rosweiss looked back and forth between Koneko and Rias like she couldn't understand, the others all sighed. Irina also finally got it. Rias was an anime nut. An otaku. Though maybe otaku wasn't the right word since she wasn't Japanese. Irina had once heard that non-Japanese people who loved Japanese things were called Japanophiles. You would be angry too if you spent almost a month introducing someone to all your favorite shows and they got the name of one wrong. Rias turned her glare on them. Office has been watching anime with me and Naruto for a while now, and this is one of my favorite franchises. How could she get the name wrong? It's unbelievable. Before she and Naruto started dating, Rias had never let anyone know about her obsession for anime, manga, and video games. It was a well-kept secret. From what Koneko understood, only Akino had possessed even an inkling about their king's taste in media. However, since becoming Naruto's girlfriend, she had been a lot more open. It probably had something to do with his acceptance of her favorite pastime. And now that you mention it, I do remember seeing all of you getting cozy on the couch and watching cartoons, Rosweiss said. Was that this Gundam thing? Ravel's drill-shaped locks of hair swayed along like a pendulum as she shook her head. It might have been, but it was probably something else. None of us have watched Gundam in a long time. What did it look like? While Ravel spoke with Rosweiss, Irina and Koneko began getting into the movie, currently playing a scene where a giant robot was fighting against some alien-looking thing. Koneko offered her bowl to Irina, who got a handful of popcorn and popped them into her mouth one by one. Meanwhile, Rias was still staring at Naruto and Office hard enough that everyone was surprised she hadn't lit the back of their heads on fire. Rosweiss crossed her arms and scrunched her nose in thought. I think there was a person with dog ears and silver hair, maybe, and there was a girl who kept telling him to sit. Inuyasha, Koneko, Ravel, and even Irina said at the same time. All the while, Rias kept her eyes locked onto her target. Devil Ninja. After watching the movie, which was corny but not all that bad, Naruto and Office left the theater and began walking around town. It was still early afternoon, so there was no need to eat something yet. That said, Naruto ended up traveling to a crepe stand and getting Office the sweetest crepes they had. As the little dragon god happily munched on her treat, they wandered across the sidewalks and looked into stores. Humans have way too many things. What do you mean? I mean they have a lot of useless stuff they don't need. Office glanced around some before pointing into the window of a shop. Take a look at this store. It's filled with all kinds of different clothing, but really, how many types of clothing do people wear? What about that shop over there? It's one of those game stores, right? How many people are going to play all those games? Humans have finite lives. I believe most don't live past 80. It just seems like there's more to do than anyone will ever be able to do in their lifetime. Naruto didn't say anything at first as Office polished off her crepe and threw the wrapper away in a trash bin. He almost snorted as the idea of a recycling dragon god took hold in his head. Holding back that thought, he leaned over, causing Office to turn his head, and swiped some of the cream on her lips with his finger. He stuck it in his mouth, tasting the unique sweetness of the cream and nodding in approval. He wasn't a Sweats fan, but this was pretty good. It is true that humans have a lot of stuff they probably don't need. Naruto got Office's hand and began walking again. The world I come from didn't have all these things either, but my world was also rife with war and chaos. There wasn't any time to really enjoy life like there is in this world. I think these games and clothes are being created because the people here can create them. Also, even if not everyone plays every game or tries on every outfit, that doesn't mean others won't. I suppose, Office admitted reluctantly. Naruto smiled. Well, how about we go ahead and try out some of those outfits you were complaining about earlier? Naruto clapped. You look really cute. Do you think so? Office looked down at herself. She wiggled her toes, shifted from foot to foot, then twirled around, her long hair, still trapped in a ponytail, swirling around her like a streamer. I do. You look amazing. Naruto peeled his lips back in a grin as he raised a hand and gave her a thumbs up. Even though there was no sunlight in the store, his teeth somehow sparkled. It came complete with a ping. Sound effect. You're super cute. If Rias was here, she'd definitely say you're Mo. I have no idea what that means. Office S. Then I'll teach you all about it later, but for now, how about you try on the last two outfits? Office did indeed try on the last two outfits, though in the end, both of them agreed that the first one he'd chosen was the best. Naruto bought it for her. They left the store, bag in one hand, offices in the other, and traveled some more. On a whim, Naruto decided they should go to the aquarium. Kuo had a small one that was just a short bus hop away, near the train station. It wasn't very large, being located in a 3-story building, but as they traveled through the half-sphere tunnel, he smiled at seeing Office gaze at everything with unbridled curiosity. She may have been a dragon god who had lived for eons, but she hadn't experienced life. There was a difference between being alive and truly living. As they continued traveling from place to place, Naruto caught a glimpse of hair out of the corner of his eyes. Sometimes it would be red, other times blonde, silver, or even white. There were also the times where he felt someone's eyes on them. He frowned and ignored the feeling as he continued exploring the aquarium with Office, looking at all the fish and strange aquatic creatures. There are a lot of strange monsters lurking in the sea, huh? Office mumbled as she stared at the jellyfish drifting along through the water. I guess so. Naruto leaned over her and looked into the tank as well. I've never really studied the ocean myself. Did they have creatures like this where you live? Don't know. Naruto tilted his head. I've fought against plenty of strange monsters out at sea, but most of them were dangerous and these seem relatively harmless in comparison. I've never seen anything like it. Then it's a learning experience for us both. I suppose it is. They eventually left the aquarium, and Naruto decided it was time to bring the date to a close. Devil Ninja. Where are they going now? The group that had been following them all asked the same question as Naruto, and Office wandered off, deeper into the city, where the buildings were more congested. None of them had ever been this far into Kuo. There had never been any reason to. Still, they followed the duo as they wandered down an alley, which led to This is. Irina gasped, cheeks flushing bright red. Rias gawped. You don't think they? No. Rosweiss, blushing even brighter than Irina, shook her head. Absolutely not. There's no way. I mean, wouldn't Naruto get in trouble? The place where Naruto and Office had wandered into, which could only be accessed by traveling through the city proper and taking a turn into a rarely used street, was gaudy, bright, and filled with neon signs. Many of the signs hanging on the buildings had hearts and strange symbols. The buildings, ranging from 4 to 6 stories, looked innocuous, but those signs, with letters like Love Motel 6 and Hotel Passion, let anyone know what sort of place they had wandered into. This was the red light district. There aren't any laws against it, if that's what you mean, Rias said. Naruto and Office both looked close enough in age that he wouldn't get arrested or whatever. Still, he'd definitely get strange looks if he brought a girl like Office into a place like that. It would be safer to do it at home. We should stop him, Ravel said. It's not fair if she gets to him before me. I mean, we need to protect his reputation. Very smooth, Yakitori, Koneko muttered, though from the fire in her eyes, it looked like she agreed. The group quickly followed the pair as they wandered deeper into the red light district. They tried to remain as inconspicuous as possible, darting from cover to cover. They hid behind a trash can, a light pole, an alley. Naruto and Office didn't appear to have seen him yet. They kept walking, chatting about something. Naruto was doing most of the talking, but Office nodded along and occasionally added her own input. Several men and women coming out of a love hotel stared at the unusual duo, perhaps wondering what such a young pair of children were doing in this section of the city. Indeed, Naruto was only 17 years old, though most would assume he was older due to his muscular build. Meanwhile, Office only looked about 14 or 15 to the unknowing eye. Many scornful glances were cast at Naruto, who either ignored them or didn't even notice. Before too long, the pair had gone into a love hotel. It was a bit smaller than the other ones but still 3 stories tall. Windows lined the outside. The entrance was an automatic sliding door, and the gaudy sign decorating the outside hung above the entrance, flashing in neon colors. Come on. Rias picked up her pace. We have to stop them. Right. The others shouted. The group rushed into the lobby of the Love Hotel, looking around. Naruto and Office weren't there. There was just an older gentleman standing behind a counter. After a moment, Ria strode across the tiled floor and stopped in front of the man, her hands on the black counter as she glared at the person. A pair of high schoolers came in here, she said. Where did they go? Devil Ninja. The bus was quiet. Naruto and Office sat in the very back, in a small corner near the window. A glance outside revealed a world dyed red and orange. It was late afternoon. That meant it was almost dinner time. I wonder if those girls liked our present, Naruto said with a chuckle. Of course Naruto had known someone was following them, and of course it had been easy to deduce who their followers were. He was honestly shocked they could think it was possible to outsneak a ninja. In either event, once the date had concluded, Naruto had led Office into a love hotel, transformed into an old man, and replaced the woman at the counter so he could fool Rias and the others into thinking they'd gone inside one of the rooms for some naughty fun. Why did we do that again? Asked Office. Because it was fun. Naruto glanced at the dragon god and raised an eyebrow. Are you saying you didn't have fun? Office tilted her head. I do not know. Was that supposed to be fun? It was. After a moment of contemplation, Office nodded. I suppose it was fun. I'm glad. Smiling, Naruto and Office continued to converse as they rode the bus home. Devil Ninja. Rias was the only one who had come to see him off. Akeno, Koneko, Ravel, and Gasper had wanted to come, but the first and third years had normal classes. Even Rias should have been in school. However, she said she had something important to give them and come along. Naruto was sure she just wanted to be with them until the very last second. Here, she said, handing a small card to Naruto, Kiba, Issei, and Asia. Naruto looked at the reflective card, then at Rias. Noticing his curious gaze, she explained the cards. These are passes. Each of you needs one if you want to travel to Kyoto. I see. Kiba nodded several times. This is the free bus pass. Kyoto was a place heavily steeped in tradition, which meant there were many temples and shrines littering the historically rich city. This also meant the place was filled with spiritual power. That would normally cause a number of problems for devils like them. After all, shrines and temples were taboo for their kind. What Rias handed to them were passes that allowed them to move freely despite this. From what Naruto understood, the passes were issued to them by Onmuji and Yokai from the Kyoto office in charge of supernatural affairs. Akeno, Sona, and I used these passes last year. As long as there is a legitimate reason, they will issue passes even to devils. Be sure to keep those in your skirt or a pocket on your uniform and you'll be able to enter all of the famous sites. Yay! Naruto raised his fist and cheered. I'm pretty pumped to see all the shrines and temples there. I thought you weren't interested in the history of this world, Kiba joked. I'm not, but visiting new places is always fun. After shamelessly admitting this, Naruto shrugged. I'm pretty excited too, Asia said with a soft smile. I've always wanted to visit more places in Japan. Issei touched her arm with a gentle look in his eyes. I'm glad you have the chance. Yes, Asia beamed. Me too. It's been a long time since I visited Kyoto. Irina's eyes were alight with excitement. I was just a kid the last time we went. What are you looking forward to seeing? Asked Naruto. I'm not sure. Irina frowned. My parents weren't too big on Kyoto because we're Christian, but I think Irina's cell phone suddenly started beeping. Excuse me. Let me take this. Irina held the phone to her ear and turned around. Asia, Issei, and Kiba bid Rias a farewell as they turned away and headed off, perhaps to give them some time alone. Naruto stared at Rias. His girlfriend was biting her lip, causing the softness of her lips to yield under the pressure of her teeth. It's been a while since we've been apart, Naruto said. Not since, well, not for a while. She didn't mention the time when Naruto had disappeared on her, back when he'd been killed by the Chaos Brigade. It was a time neither of them wanted to remember. Thanks to his dumb decision to let himself get taken so he could learn more about the Chaos Brigade, Naruto had not been around during the incident with missing Excaliburs and Kokobile. Rias had been distraught. When he returned, she'd been so upset that she hadn't spoken to him at all. He didn't blame her. It had been a dumb move on his part, but now that they had gotten over it, neither of them wanted to be reminded of those trying times. Please be careful, Rias said at last. I will. Reaching out, Naruto gripped her hands in his. I promise. I feel a little guilty, she admitted. I got to see you all the way to the end, but Ravel and Koneko couldn't leave school. I gave them a proper goodbye this morning, Naruto said in her defense, then sighed. But I understand what you mean. Be sure to take him out when you come back home. Naruto could not stop from smiling at her words, at the kindness in her tone and suggestion. How many girlfriends would tell him to take another girl out on a date? He supposed it depended on whether or not they were human. Even so, that Rias cared enough for the other girls that she was willing to let them be with him showed how kind and loving she was toward those two. I will. Naruto nodded. You and I will also have to go on a date when I get back home. Rias smiled at his words. Take care of yourself in Kyoto. Will do. It was time for the school trip to begin. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.